a bunch of crazy stories written by the Brothers Grimm. And now you're gonna learn all about them, listening to the Brothers Grimm.
Students and scholars, friends and relations, welcome to the Brothers Dim podcast, where we discuss the crazy, wacky tales written down and recorded by the Brothers Grimm. My name is Phil.
Yeah, my name is Mike.
And today we are going to be discussing Grimm's story number 16, The Three Snake Leaves.
This is one of the first ones where I read the title and had no idea what was going to happen.
As opposed to The Bird, the Mouse, and the Sausage.
Oh, I mean, that's that you could see that coming a while away.
Yeah. How are you doing, Mike?
I bought 2 cellos the other day, which is a whole story in and of itself.
Okay,
we can leave that out.
No, we can. There's no reason to leave that out. You bought 2 cellos. By all means.
So
why?
I've wanted to learn cello for a while. I just thought it was cool. It kind of goes along with having played bass for a long time.
Yeah, you thought it would be easier if you thought it would be twice as easy.
Maybe.
You bought 2 of them.
No, not at all. So I was looking for a cheap beater, basically. And so I'd been perusing Amazon, and there's like a bunch of different brands, but they're all the same thing of these shitty cellos, which I'm assuming shitty. And so I figured, well, I could buy a crappy one and then take it to a luthier and see if they could, jazz it up a little bit, make it slightly less crappy. Talk to a local luthier. He's like, yeah, no, that's totally a thing. That's not a waste of time or money. Mm-hmm. So I pulled the trigger. And then the next morning saw what I really had wanted, which was, it's a brand called Cecilio. It's like a standard like student cello. This is a 4/4 used as a guy just upgrading. So I bought a cello on Amazon Thursday night. Friday morning, I see the one that I really want on Facebook Marketplace. I bookmarked that. Saturday, the one from Amazon comes, and sure enough, it is crappy. I was just uncertain. So I messaged the guy and I was like, hey, is that cello still available? And he said, I can give it to you for $200. But I can't guarantee, you got to get here fast, because if somebody gets here first, then I got to give it away. And I was like, all right, I'll hop in the car. It's in the middle of the state. So it was an hour and 20 minutes to get there. Drove across the state, bought a cello for $200, a much better one. It's, it's like something I can trust in. And it's been played by an actual cello player for a while. As I'm pulling out of his driveway, I commenced the return on the crappy one.
Okay.
And went on my way. By the time I'd gotten home, the company of the crappy one had written to me and said, oh, we're sorry to hear that you were disappointed with the quality of your instrument. Is there anything we can do to help? What if we gave you a $100 refund on it? Would you be willing to keep it? And I said, no, I don't know. I'm still not really comfortable with it. Didn't want to tell them I'd gone out and gotten a better one for the same price. And they said, well, what if we give you a $150 refund? And so I started doing the math, and I was like, that's basically a cello for $40.
That's not bad.
And so I ended up keeping them both. I got a cello. I got a decent cello for $200, and then I got a crappy cello for $40, which I can go ahead and modify to my heart's content and not really feel guilty about it.
Well, that's fantastic. I'm glad you found something that sparks joy for you, and I look forward to hearing some cello playing from you in the future. In the meantime, would you please walk us through the plot of Grimm's Story 16, The Three Snake Leaves?
I would love to. So we start off the scene with a poor old man who has a son that he can't support. So you kind of have to assume it's a woodcutter, but it's never stated as such. The son is old enough to recognize this, and he says to his dad, I clearly am a burden on you. I'm going to go out and seek my fortune with your blessing. So they tearfully depart. Kid goes out. He discovers that a nearby king is at war, so he joins the military of that king. Ends up in a decisive battle. It looks like it's going to be a rout. He rallies the troops, saves the day. They win the battle. The king recognizes that he solely was responsible for that, so he lauds him with riches and a title and all these things. And of course, the king has a very attractive daughter. But the daughter, she's a little bit of a wackadoodle. She has this contingent that anyone who marries her must agree that whoever dies first, the other must be willing to be buried alive with the other, because there's no point in going on if your love is that strong.
90s goth grunge
Oh.
girl suicide pact.
Oh yeah, totally. Yep.
Yeah.
So he thinks for a hot second. He's like, yeah, you know what? She's so hot. I'll go for it. The king's like, are you sure? And even he knows this is weird. And the guy's like, yeah, no, it's good. So they have a nice little marriage. And then, sure enough, soon after that, she falls ill and dies. And he's like, yeah, okay. So he gets buried in the tomb with her, sealed in with 4 candles, 4 loaves of bread, and 4 bottles of wine. So he's kind of passing his time.
Drunk, you can have one night, 2 nights getting drunk, and then it's time to die.
Yep, pretty much. He's rationing the bread and just a sip of wine a day, trying to make it as far as he can. And then one day he's in the middle of this and he sees a snake kind of slither on out of one of the corners of the tomb. And it starts to kind of heads towards the dead body. So he jumps in the way. He has a sword, apparently. I guess you can get buried with that too. And he says, I will never let you defile my dead wife of 6 months. And immediately cuts the snake in 3 pieces. And goes back.
Also, was the snake going to defile your dead wife's?
Yeah, I don't. It's not clear what he thought the snake was going to do.
Snake's just like going around. Is like, oh, what do we have here? Hi.
And she is dead. I mean, but anyway.
Yeah. Anyways,
so he cuts the snake in 3 pieces and then goes about his meager existence of rationing the bread and wine until he's eventually dies as well.
Doesn't think maybe I can eat this snake.
He didn't occur to him, which is probably for the best, because later on another snake appears, sees the dead snake, and then goes back to where it had come from, and then comes back with these 3 green leaves. The snake, by hook or by crook, assembles the 3 pieces of the dead snake into the way they're supposed to go, puts the leaves on each of the cuts, and then hocus pocus, the snake pieces rejoin, and we have a whole snake again. The 2 of them slither off just fine.
The Gadsden flag.
The what?
The Gadsden flag. The flag. It used to be people in Massachusetts used to have them. It was all the states are a part of the snake.
Oh yes.
And now the MAGA crowd has taken that as their own, like the "Don't Tread on Me."
Yeah.
Flag.
Yeah. I know what that means when I see it at this point.
Yeah. Okay, so the snake is back together.
Yeah, snake is back together. The 2 snakes slither off, happy as can be, and the guy looks at the leaves on the ground and thinks, "Huh." So he picks up the leaves and he puts one on each of the dead wife's eyes and then one on the mouth. And sure enough, she comes back to life too. And she's, at first she is confused and doesn't know where she is. The guy explains it to her. And then after they had resurrected, the young king had, he told his faithful servant, he said, oh, you know what? Grab those leaves. Hold on to those because we might have a use for them at some point.
I would think so.
They could be
like,
useful.
I found an herb that brings dead people back to life. Maybe it could be useful someday. I don't know. I don't know that it would be, but
right. I mean,
this one miracle, the greatest miracle in the history of the world.
I mean, we don't need to go find more.
We should probably keep them. We should probably just keep them in a drawer somewhere.
Yeah, probably. Just keep them on your purse. After she regains her strength, they go and bang on the door. The king lets them out. Everybody's happy. It's wonderful. Except she seems to have lost her love for him. And so much so that on a voyage not much longer, they were going to go visit his old father. She falls in with the skipper. She just thinks he is the cutest piece cutest piece of meat. And in the extent of the journey, they wait until the young king falls asleep and then pick him up by the head and feet and throw him overboard. So they've dispatched of him. Meanwhile, the faithful servant witnesses this whole murder and steals away in a little dinghy. He goes and fishes the body out of the ocean, uses the leaves to bring the young king back to life. And they book ass back for the mainland to get there ahead of the boat. And they do. So they run in and they explain to the king what happened. And he's like, I don't want to believe this, but if this is true, she should be home soon and we'll see what she says. So they go off and hide in the wings. And sure enough, the princess comes home alone with a forlorn look on her face. And the king says, oh, my darling, what's the matter? Why are you alone? She says, oh, my wonderful husband fell ill on the voyage and he perished. And this young skipper was, he managed to save me. If not for him, I would have been lost as well. He can back me up on this. And the king goes, I bring the dead back to life, and brings out the dead husband alive. She's like, oh crap, falls on her knees begging for mercy. And the king is like, there's no mercy for you. And so sets her adrift with the skipper in a ship full of holes, which soon sinks beneath the waves to a watery grave. The end.
My liege, please, father, show mercy. No.
Nope.
Nope.
Actually, what he says is pretty good. He says, there is no mercy. He was ready to die with you and restored you to life again, but you have murdered him in his sleep and shall receive the reward that you deserve.
There's something to that. I'll gonna get to in a little bit when we get to the notes section.
Yeah, there is some nice little bits of language in here. When it's describing when she's on the ship and, we realize that she's fallen out of love with the young king. The phrase is conceived a wicked inclination for the skipper, which I thought was just juicy as hell.
I like that too. And I think that was the line I had written down for what made me laugh first. It was just a weird turn of phrase. I also liked it was just a skipper, not the captain.
No,
I admit,
not
I
even the
probably
first
should have
mate.
looked this up. I don't know. Yeah. And Gilligan. I don't know the difference between a skipper and a captain. I'm guessing
I have no idea.
It's something similar. We could probably.
I think if it's a big enough boat, there's a captain and then a skipper. On a small boat, maybe it's just the skipper.
Just the skipper.
Know. I'm guessing this was a decently sized boat if it had a dinghy, though.
Yeah.
I'm going to see how many times I can say dinghy in this recording as well.
Do you have? I have a couple of morals that it could be.
The best I could come up with is keep your promises and you will be rewarded. This guy is pretty. I mean, this guy is pretty spotless. He saves his father by going out to seek his fortune so his father can afford to eat. He saves the army in the war. He decides to marry this woman anyway, despite the fact that she's a lunatic.
Yeah.
Brings her back to life. He's going to go visit his old dad when he gets murdered. Yeah, no, unless they had him have the king spare the princess in the end, like that would have been the coup de grace, but I don't blame him for just kind of standing by and be like, yeah, you know what, screw it.
I went a different route.
Okay.
I think there's a little bit of the maybe keep your promises, although I don't know that he was really rewarded. I mean, he was rewarded. He was alive at the end of it, but he lost his wife. He got to see his wife just drown. Even
well, the wife had
cheated on
murdered him.
Well, yeah, but still, it's. I mean, that's not. There's some complicated feelings that you would have.
Yes,
at the end of that, you'd have a little PTSD. I think don't fiddle with the dead. You just leave them alone.
Yeah,
and then don't make any suicide pacts with the gothic grunge girls you meet. I don't care how hot they are. You don't make suicide pacts with any crazy women.
Speaking of teenage dirtbaggery, it's kind of a miracle that we made it. Given crazy goth girl suicide pacts and all that.
There were a lot of there.
I don't know about you, but I was pretty dumb.
I was dumb. If we're gonna hop into a
tales of teenage dirtbaggery,
I certainly dated women that were very bad for me.
Yeah.
No one that did suicide pacts though. No, I don't recall ever hearing about that from any of our friends.
I think we mostly all made it out.
I mean,
except for the
all
folks
made that without committing suicide. That was never
still
on the
in the
table.
valley.
I'm way too awesome to want to do anything like that. But I definitely I got out without any major real permanent damage to myself. Certainly,
just crabs.
Yeah. That one's easy. Just shave them off. I have a movie pitch, or we can talk about the notes. My notes are a movie pitch. Which do you think you would like to?
I think notes will probably be short. We can do that, and then I don't have a lot.
I don't have a lot either. I guess there's two sort of themes that kind of go along with the Arn Thompson part. So it's Arn Thompson type 612, right? Which is just the three snake leaves. This is the only one sort of its type. It's a second edition story. Kind of uncertain origins, but more or less it's this story, whenever it's retold, it's the same beats. It's the guy meets this woman, she's crazy, they get buried together, blah, blah, blah. And then the snake gives them the comeback to life stuff. So the themes kind of I noticed really were the, I guess, betrayal, which that one feels very Catholic to me. We were talking about her going off with the skipper, right?
Yeah.
And very Catholic in that it's kind of a parable that if I die, I mean, you should die too, but more to the point of it, if I die, our vows are forever. So you should not remarry, because I think remarriage in Grimm's is a dicey.
It does tend to have disastrous endings for either
It has
the
disastrous ending,
stepchildren.
and she's not. And it's almost like a divorce because both parties are still alive, and the woman cheated on the husband and killed her, or killed her husband, right? So, I mean, that's matricide.
Matricide? That's mother. I thought that was just mother.
No, or mariticide.
Ah, yeah, that was just on the tip of my tongue.
Okay,
absolutely not. So it's funny you mentioned that, because there's also one of the other little bits of text that I thought was interesting was when she returns to the king's chambers, looking all forlorn. It's described as the godless woman appeared before her father. I mean, there's definitely judgment in the storytelling, but godless in specific. I mean, there's not a lot of, at least Christianity in these. There's not a lot of overtones besides the obvious, Our Lady's Child and things like that. So I think that the adjective godless is definitely kind of a flag there.
I thought so too. That kicked into my brain too, and that's why I kind of thought if we're looking deeper into this, what actually happened, and what happened is she cheated on her husband and killed him, and then got killed by even her own father. Her own father was like, "Well, nope, you broke your vows. The vows you should be forever. Remarriage is bad in certain ways, and so we're gonna ruin a boat by filling it with holes."
Your demand
was Skipper.
Your demand was crazy enough to begin with. You already had a strike against you.
The only other note kind of I had, which I liked, was the idea of the herbs bringing back people from the dead. As far as whether or not this is like a truly original German kind of story, but that idea has been around since antiquity. I think.
Oh yeah.
And because there's herbs that actually do have healing properties, anti-inflammatory tea or whatever. This stuff actually does exist, and I would like to point out first, I am not saying don't go get real medicine if you need real medicine, but when before there was aspirin, if you got a wound, then there was two options. One is put an anti-inflammatory on it, or it just gets infected and you die in a pre-soap world. So I kind of like the idea of this herb, the natural final transition of these stories about healing herbs is an herb that brings back people from the dead.
Yeah, I mean, let's not forget leeches are a viable medical solution too.
Like it didn't always work, but
no, I think it usually didn't work.
It was the doctors. It was the when the dudes got involved. They were like, herbs. Listen, old lady.
Let me just put my dirty hands inside you.
Take your tea and your willow bark. Get the hell out of here. We don't need any of that nonsense. I've got good ideas. I've got a knife and I got a leech and I've got a theory.
This is science.
It's science in a way.
Yeah, it will be science.
It's a little bit science in that they had a hypothesis. And then they went and tested the hypothesis and killed a bunch of people while doing
it. For hundreds of years. One theme I'm seeing, this is a minor one, but he gets locked. He gets sealed in the tomb with loaves of bread and bottles of wine. I mean, and I, even though I don't drink, I'd probably want wine if I was getting buried alive too. But like, does anybody drink water? Or is it like anytime somebody drinks something, it's wine?
No, they don't, because you couldn't, because water had a bunch of weird shit in it. It was, sometimes literally.
True.
It was you drink wine or beer and you live. And if you don't, you get all these weird water-based diseases. All these. George Washington, he had beer. It was it's a disgusting beer. I've tried his recipe, but it's a super low alcohol, like 3% alcohol oatmeal stout.
Yeah. That
was there. So he's like, well, I can't have my guys getting drunk, but I also can't have them drinking water.
Yeah, I think that is something I was aware of, is that in these days when, it was beer with or ale with breakfast, wine with lunch, it was typically a very low potency.
Yeah, it was session ale.
Crushable breakfast ale.
Not that this man needed to worry about how long was he going to live, technically, as the whole point was that he was going to starve to death inside the tomb with this lady. I digress. I do have a movie pitch. If you
hit me.
Okay. I think you can have a lot of the same beats. I'm going to set this as a northern tale. I'm going to have some Vikings because who doesn't like Vikings?
I'm with you.
So Viking raids and such. It's cold. The woman, chief's daughter, she takes part in the raids too.
Of course.
Originally. Yeah. And the guys, he's a very good soldier, and the chief's, becomes the most trusted lieutenant, or already is. So the guy falls in love with the chieftain's daughter, and they've been so successful at raiding and such that the chief gives them his blessing. They get married, and they're a terror to everyone in their path. And I'm going to avoid the whole suicide pact thing, right? But the woman dies in a raid, and the tribe has a tradition where someone has to guard the body for 7 days or whatever before the normal Viking funeral. And the man is protecting the body in the crypt until she's buried or what have you. And then you can, if you want, you can have the snake come out. He kills the snake and brings it outside, throws it out of the crypt. Now, as it happens, in this cemetery, there is a shrine kind of fountain thing to Balder, the Old Norse god of rebirth. It's overgrown and leaves and such. No one's worshiping him anymore. The guy's not paying much attention. Throws the snake and it lands in the fountain. And you can have a kind of neat sequence where the leaves close in over the fountain, and there's some light. When they reopen, the snake's alive. And so here's where I diverge a lot, I should say. So this guy, still overcome with grief, is like, wow, a magic fountain. Praise the gods. Praise the old gods. And immediately gets the wife, places her in the fountain. Same light, same everything as the snake. But, and here's the twist, sometimes, as with resurrection, the person you put in there ain't the person that comes back.
Come back changed.
Yeah, the comeback changed. Yeah. So she comes back from the dead. But while she was at peace and died in battle, so her soul has already crossed the rainbow bridge. She's in Valhalla. All that's left is this kind of demon vampire person gets into the body. The soul's gone. I know I've been kind of leaning on zombies lately, but something of that sort. She starts raising all these other bodies from the dead. Dude runs away, goes and gets the townsfolk ready. And
damn it, Balder.
If you want, you can do that on a boat. He races across the fountain's on an island or something. Gets on the boat, but he has to get back to the town before the demons all get there. And then you can have kind of a horror movie sequence for a night till the town decides to fight back. There's an old wise man in town who's like, well, you shouldn't have put her in there in the first place.
The grandfather in the Lost Boys.
Exactly. The old man from Pet Sematary. But there's the old wise man. He's seen this before. He knows here's a way to kill him is with flaming arrows or something. And then you have a nice big Viking versus demon fight. Vikings win, the end.
I'd go see that.
That's 90 minutes of summer fun is what that is.
Yeah, totally. Who would you cast in that?
Well, who would you cast in that?
For the wife, I immediately thought of Cate Blanchett just because of her character in Thor Ragnarok.
Okay.
It's probably not a good reason to do that.
She's got it on her resume. It's like, oh, I've played undead
dark and
Vikings before.
Disturbing. Yeah. I don't know about the hero. Can't do Timothy Chalamet because that Wonka movie that's coming out is just, it might have ruined him for me.
Oh, well, I think we'll see how Dune 2 plays out.
Also, he's not very Viking looking.
He's not very Viking like. He's a bit of a skinny boy. So you want someone kind of big, but youngish, I guess. So you don't want, who is that fella from Game of Thrones? That's Aquaman.
Oh, Jason Momoa?
Yeah, you don't really want Jason Momoa.
Well, he also doesn't look like a Viking.
No, he doesn't. He's a little swarthy. Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe you.
Maybe who?
You.
Me? No,
I'm
not. I'm not very strong.
You don't need to be strong. It's acting.
No, you should. You want to have the kind of super buff Viking body. We'll see. I'm not sure who I would cast. So
yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's a worthy tangent.
Yeah, well, it might not be. We'll see, and I'll maybe think about some of these things. That is all I have, though.
This story has made me want to start keeping a log of all the creative capital punishments that happen in the last couple sentences. Because we have, the barrel with snakes and boiling oil. Again, like why do you need snakes in the first place?
Yeah.
Fit it into a barrel full of nails and roll down a hill.
Yeah.
But I should probably start logging these.
I think you should. I would be very interested in that. You can make a nice little web page Just a very silly Web 1.0 page of here's how everyone died in Grimm's.
The body count.
And yeah, and you can, like died via barrel and what sort of barrel it was. Was
We
it full
can
of
have
acid and
tags.
snakes? Was it full of lava or nails? For now, we can leave things. This has been story number 16, The Three Snake Leaves. My name's been Phil.
And my name has been Mike.
Sleep tight, and we will talk to you next time.